Okay, so I had a little bit of a problem with the crane, and I had to get into the manuals and do some diagnostics and do some repairs. Also had a 7,500 hour service due, and so I wanted to do a little video here about your manuals and how important it is to read your manuals. I do this every time I get on a new machine. I will sit and read through the manuals, especially the operation manuals, but I do all my own maintenance. I do all my own repairs. And so I also need to be familiar with how to diagnose and repair when I have problems. You can see here I've got the SANY, the operation maintenance manual out for the crawler crane, the SANY 8100, and also have a manual here for a Caterpillar 320. And I'll show you some things in the Caterpillar manual also. A lot of times when you talk to a crane operator, if you're a crane operator and you have some kind of issue and you want to get an answer out of a crane operator, they'll tell you read the manual. Is that just because crane operators are jerks? Yeah, for the most part, but they're right. You need to read your manual. Things that you think are true, you might find are the exact opposite in the manual. And so here's one that I wanted to point out real quick. This is the Caterpillar 320. 320 and 323. The 323 is a zero turn, or zero radius, zero swing. Zero swing. The 320 has the full swing counterweight. In my video about crawling the crane down a slope, I showed the example of why we crawl with our crawlers downhill, and why you want to keep your weight uphill. And this is from the Caterpillar manual, operator manual, which nobody ever reads. Okay, this is page 35 here, and it says right here, okay, when possible, operate the machine upslopes and downslopes with the final drive sprockets down the slope. Avoid operating the machine across the slope. Place the heaviest end of the machine uphill when you're working on an incline. Okay, that is right from the Caterpillar manual. There's all kinds of information in these manuals if people will bother to read them, but you can tell this manual doesn't get read a whole lot, except when you get back here to the service section, where our mechanic and service techs will look up the maintenance intervals. And they'll look up every 10 hours, 50 hours, 250, 500 hours, 1,000 hours, 2,000 hours, 3,000. It's everything you need to do is listed in here. Everything you need to do to service that machine. And like I said, I have a 7,500 hour due on the crawler crane, and it is the same in here. If you look through all these manuals, you will find here's a section on safety, which is pretty generic for all cranes. There's a section on system functions, which is going to tell you about how all these things operate: the LMI, the limit switches, 2-block switches and 3-wrap switches, slewing lock, bubble level. It's all in here. Everything, every component on the machine. Here's a good example: the anemometer, how the anemometer works, where it is today. We've got high winds here. I've got wind speeds, it says right there, in excess of 16 meters per second. As soon as it hits 16 meters per second, my red light will go off. Then I know the wind is above 35 miles an hour. And we're kind of shut down because of the wind today. Not not because I'm getting into alarms here, but because the material that we're handling just can't tolerate this wind. It's blowing the load around too much. Big lightweight pieces that are catching too much wind. There is a chart in the load charts, and I believe it's in here in operations, that explains once you get above 35 miles an hour, you don't have to shut down, but you have to derate. You derate your capacity. The machine is actually rated, I think, to 50 mile an hour winds, but every 5 miles an hour you have to derate so much percentage off your. That's all explained in this manual if you bother to read the manual. How the LMI works, what all the functions are in the LMI, how to go about setting up and calibration. I know I saw the page on calibration in here. What everything on the screen means, all of that. The section I'm interested in today is back here in maintenance, because I have 75-hour or 7,500-hour service due, and I'm going to be doing the service. So what I like to do is I like to write down all my filters, every part number that I need for my filters, so I can call the parts house and just rattle these off. And in fact, the guys that I deal with, I just snap a picture and send it to them. And then here it will tell you everything that you need to do. Here's all your lubrication specs, approximate gallons, and what type of oils you need to be buying and that kind of thing. And then in here, let's see if we get, here's once a week you need to do, and it's going to list all that. Now some manuals will give you a chart, and it'll show everything on a chart, or more like this Caterpillar manual was showing. This just kind of lists it here. Here's weekly. Here's monthly, and here's 50 hour, beginning of the 50 hour. Here's 100 hour, and it goes on like this, and goes on every 500 hours. And this is what I'll be doing. I'm going to do everything up to and including 500 hour, because I'm doing a 7,500 hour service. So the problem that I had was an electrical issue, and this is the electrical schematic for our little Grove crane, our Grove 70 ton. And I'll just pull up a page of this, one of these pages that I've been working on. Front console wiring, I don't. So here we go. This is the electrical schematic section for this Grove crane, and down here it explains this is the carrier wiring. What's your lower carrier wiring? You have components like your engine and your starter down over here, and you can look around and you can find, here's your turn signal column and your turn signal lights, and it'll give you the wiring, what wire number you're going to be dealing with. Here's the instrument panel for the carrier, your different fuses that you have and relays and such. There, if you've ever looked in a service manual for any kind of a vehicle or equipment or anything, you probably think, well, that looks, fairly regular, fairly familiar. And here's what I got to deal with this Sany. This manual is crazy. This is a wiring diagram. This is not a wiring diagram. This is a diagram for the relay CAN bus resistance. And what in the heck is this? Here's CAN 2 high, CAN 2 low, CAN 2 high, CAN 1 high, CAN 2 high, CAN 2 high and can too high again. And the heck is that? This thing is terrible. This is like the worst wiring diagram schematic that I've ever had to deal with. This is a power control panel, fuse panel for the, which one is this? Behind the seat? No, this is the one in the electronics cabinet in the back. This thing is awful. It's all in here, but it's just terrible to try and make any sense of this here. Here you have U1 power supply, sensor, engine power supply, standby system. And then here you have, so here for the unit 1 power supply, okay. This is the wire number, this is the fuse number, this is a fuse box location. Number 6 fuse, 30 amp fuse. This is the wire number. It comes off of wire number 10, goes through this fuse, and then it feeds power down here. 0601 is the wire number that feeds power, and you have to look these up by page number. You look that up, that's a page number. This is page 2, 10B. So we're on page 41 here. So we're going to go to page 2, 10B. I guess we're not on page, we're on page 6 there. Here's page 2. Here's 10. Okay. And here's B. And lo and behold, there it is. And that's how you find, and this wire, you know, comes off of the battery, through the battery disconnect, through this power lug, and comes over here to page 6, 3C, which is exactly where we were right here. On page 6 and 3 and C. And once you get the hang of how this thing is laid out, you can find stuff. But this is the craziest way of making a schematic, an electrical schematic that I've ever seen. And then you've got you know, stuff that just did not translate from Chinese into English very well, like proximity switch of rotating impulse counting. That's your drum clickers, but that doesn't translate very well. Anyhow, the kind of thing that we were talking about before, about the how you traverse a slope, that's explained in the Caterpillar manual. This is for the 320 is an excavator, okay? That's explained in here, how to work on a slope, how to traverse a slope, the dangers of cross sloping, where to put your counterweight, how to set up your crawler frames. It's explained in here. It's not explained in here. That's not, they simply say in here 2%. Now there is, oh, it's in a different manual. There's another manual for setup when you're setting up an assembly, and I don't have that manual in here. In that manual, it says you can do up to 16% when you're loading and unloading on and off of a trailer. You have no counterweight, you have your crawlers retracted, and you have no boom on. You can do up to 16%, or maybe it's 16 degrees, and I don't remember. It's 16 something. But as far as traversing slopes and operating on a slope, nothing more than 2 degrees is ever mentioned. But that was the purpose of me making that other video, was to show how it actually can be done. So the big point is, read your manuals. Sometimes there's little like Easter eggs in the manuals. a little thing that will only be mentioned one time, one place, in one manual, and you might have to read for 8 hours to find that one thing. Sometimes you go to get on a machine and it won't function, and you don't know how to make this thing function. It's in the manual. You can ask another operator and they'll tell you, hey, you got to do this, throw this lever or push this button or whatever to get it to function. But all that's in the manual. And I had a problem with a big pump truck, with getting the remote control to connect to the pump truck, and you had to honk the horn. And that was only ever mentioned one place in the manual. But I had to spend about 4 hours reading through the manual before I found that one place. So anyhow, whatever machine you're running, read your manual. If it's a simple little machine, you got a simple manual to read, If it gets complicated, you might have to spend several days reading manuals to familiarize yourself with the machine. And that's all I got for today.